The night was silent, but silence never meant safety. The ruins of the battlefield stretched for miles, broken machines, scorched ground, and shadows that hid many dangers. A lone human walked among the wreckage. His name did not matter to the stars, but his survival did. He moved carefully, step by step, like a ghost in a graveyard. Every sound seemed louder in the dark. The crunch of shattered metal under his boots, the faint hiss of smoke rising from destroyed alien crafts. Somewhere in the distance, a wind carried the smell of burnt stone and blood. He knew he was not alone. The feeling was sharp, like a knife pressing against his back. His heart beat faster, but his face stayed calm. This was not the first time someone had hunted him. But tonight felt different. In the shadows above, something moved. A figure hidden on the broken walls, watching every step he took. Her eyes glowed faintly, cold, alien, merciless. She was an assassin, not just any assassin, but one of the most feared hunters in her kind. For weeks she had followed him, across ruined cities and abandoned colonies. She did not rest. She did not stop. And she had never failed. The human adjusted the strap of his rifle, though he knew it would not help much. Against her weapons, his rifle was like a child's toy. Still, he carried it because a weapon was not only steel, it was courage in his hand. The assassin shifted silently. Her armor blended with the darkness, her breathing steady, her movements perfect. To her, this was not war. This was art, and the human was not a soldier. He was prey. The man paused. He felt it again, that sharp presence. His instinct screamed, "She is here." He looked around slowly, scanning the ruins. Nothing but broken stone and shadows. Still, his hand tightened on his weapon. The assassin raised her arm. A sleek weapon extended, glowing faint blue. One shot, one kill, that was all it ever took. She aimed at his chest, her finger light on the trigger. And then, the man dropped. The energy beam flew past, burning a hole in the wall behind him. Sparks exploded, flames lit up the ruin for a second. He rolled to cover, heart pounding, but his face stayed calm. He had survived the first shot. Most never did. A low growl echoed across the ruins. It was not human. It was her. She had missed, and that almost never happened. For the first time in a long time, the assassin felt something she had forgotten. Curiosity. The human pressed his back against broken stone. He did not fire back. He knew it would be useless. Instead, he waited, breathing slow, eyes scanning the shadows. He whispered to himself, "She's close." Above him, she moved again, stepping lightly, silent as death. Her blade shone in the dark, curved and sharp, made for quick, clean kills. She did not rush. She enjoyed the hunt, the fear, the waiting. But this man was not afraid. That unsettled her more than she cared to admit. The ruins were now a chessboard. Every piece of cover, every broken wall was part of the game. She circled high ground. He stayed low, close to the wreckage. Their eyes never met, but both knew. The other was only a breath away. The human remembered the stories. Alien assassins never failed. They never stopped. Once they chose a target, nothing in the galaxy could save that soul. And now he was that soul. Still, he smirked, because he had one advantage. He was human. And humans had something the assassin's kind did not fully understand. Something that turned prey into predator when cornered. Patience. She leaped down suddenly, landing silent as a shadow, her blade ready. But the human had already moved. A piece of broken metal fell where he had stood, clattering loudly. Her eyes narrowed. He was fast. Too fast. The game had begun. From the darkness his voice came, not loud but clear enough for her to hear. "You'll have to do better than that." The words were calm, even playful. They were not the words of prey. Her grip tightened. For the first time, the assassin wondered if the hunt would be simple. The ruins grew quiet again. Too quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She scanned, her senses sharp. Her people were hunters by birth, trained from childhood to see weakness, to smell fear. But in him she smelled none. Only something else, resolve. The man crouched low, watching her silhouette move in the faint moonlight. He studied her like a soldier studies his enemy. Every step, every pause, every glance, he was memorizing her patterns. And then it happened. A red dot appeared on his chest. Her scope locked him again. He froze. The assassin smiled in her own way. The hunt was over. But before she fired, he whispered softly, almost too soft for her to hear. "Not yet." Then he rolled sideways. Another beam blasted, burning a crater into the floor. Dust exploded into the air, covering everything in smoke. She hissed, frustrated. Twice she had missed. Twice he had escaped, and in the dust she heard him laugh. A human laugh, not mocking, not scared, but sharp, controlled like someone who was setting a trap of his own. The assassin narrowed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, the hunter was not certain. The smoke drifted slowly across the ruins, covering the battlefield in a gray curtain. The human crouched low, listening. Every crackle of fire, every shifting stone, every echo told him something. He was trained to survive, and survival meant paying attention, but he also knew his enemy was listening too. Somewhere above, the assassin watched through the smoke. Her eyes cut through darkness like blades. Her people had hunted humans for decades, and most prey never even saw her face before dying. But this one refused to die. Twice he had escaped her shot. Twice he had made her miss. She hated that. The assassin moved down from the high ground, landing without sound. Her steps were perfect, every movement controlled, graceful as a shadow. Her long weapon folded back into her armor, replaced by two curved blades glowing faint blue. Close combat, her favorite way to kill. The human pressed his hand against the ground. Vibrations. She was moving closer. He could not see her, but he knew she was coming. Slowly, he pulled a small piece of metal from his pocket. It was no real weapon, just scrap he had taken from the ruins. But in skilled hands, even scrap could be a tool. He threw it to his left. The sound echoed. The assassin snapped her head toward it, blades ready. In that heartbeat of distraction, the human moved right, crawling low, sliding into deeper cover. She turned back. He was gone. Her jaw tightened. Few humans lasted more than minutes against her. But this one was playing a different game. He was not running in panic. He was controlling the battlefield. The assassin hissed softly and spoke in her own tongue, a whisper that carried across the smoke. "You will not escape." The human froze, hearing the alien voice, cold, sharp female. He had heard it once before when his squad was alive. Back then, the assassin had slaughtered them one by one. Only he survived, and now she was here again, like a shadow that refused to vanish. He gritted his teeth. Not this time. Suddenly movement, a flash of light. The assassin lunged through the smoke, blades slashing. The human ducked, sparks flying as metal cut stone where his head had been. He rolled, kicked hard at her leg. She barely moved, her armor absorbing the strike, and swung again. This time her blade grazed his arm. Heat burned his skin. He stumbled back, breath sharp. She advanced, slow and sure, like a predator enjoying the kill. Her voice echoed again, translated by his earpiece. "Run, make me work for it." He stared at her, finally seeing her face. Tall, strong, skin like steel, eyes glowing with unnatural fire. The assassin was not just a killer, she was beautiful in a terrible alien way. But he did not run. Instead, he smiled. "Work? You'll have to." Before she could react, he pulled a small device from his vest, a flash charge. He slammed it against the wall. Light exploded, white and blinding. Even her advanced eyes flinched. When her vision cleared, he was gone again. The assassin growled low. Prey did not smile. Prey did not blind their hunter. Prey did not enjoy the chase. Something about this human was wrong. She leapt to higher ground again, scanning with her visor. Heat signatures lit the ruins. She found him, moving fast toward a cluster of wrecked machines. She raised her blade, ready to strike. But then she saw something strange. Tripwires. The human had set traps among the wreckage, small hidden explosives carefully placed. He had not been running blindly, he had been leading her. Her lips curled into something rare for her kind. A smile. "So," she whispered, "you are not prey." The human crouched behind the machines, loading his rifle. He knew she had seen the traps. That was fine. He wanted her to know. This was not just survival. This was war. For long minutes, neither moved. The smoke began to thin, the moonlight showing the battlefield more clearly. Every shadow looked alive. Every silence screamed of danger. Finally, she spoke again, her voice calm, almost curious. "You think you can hunt me?" He raised his rifle, eyes steady. "I don't think. I know." A sharp laugh came from her throat, low and dangerous. It was not joy. It was recognition. For the first time in her long career, she felt respect for a human who dared to fight her like an equal. But respect did not mean mercy. She leapt again, blades flashing. He fired, bullets sparking against her armor. She dodged fast as lightning and slammed into him. They hit the ground hard, rolling through dust and broken stone. Her blade pressed against his throat. One push and it would be over. He stared back, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his face. But his eyes were not afraid. They were sharp, calculating, waiting, she noticed. And then she felt it. The faint click under her foot. A mine. Her eyes widened. The human smirked. Checkmate. For the first time, the assassin froze. She had him at her mercy. Yet she was standing in his trap. One wrong move and they would both be destroyed. The battlefield went still. Hunter and hunted locked in silence. And in that silence, something changed. The assassin realized this was no simple mission. This human was unlike the others. He was not running from death. He was shaping it. And the human knew one thing for certain. The game had only just begun. The assassin stood motionless, her blade still at his throat, her foot balanced carefully on the hidden mine. Dust hung in the air between them like a curtain. The battlefield was silent, but inside her mind memories stirred. Old voices, old lessons, old blood. She remembered where it began. She had not always been the hunter. Once she had been a child on a cold world lit by twin suns. Her people were born into war, raised in training halls carved into stone mountains. No songs, no play, no family warmth. Only blades, drills, and endless battles. Children learned to kill before they learned to speak well. Weakness meant death. If you stumbled, the masters beat you. If you hesitated, another child took your place. Survival was the only law. She was different even then, silent, focused. While others fought with rage, she studied with cold patience. She learned the rhythm of movement, the weakness in breath, the hesitation in an enemy's eyes. By the time she was 10 cycles old, she had already ended lives. The masters gave her a name that was not her own, Shadow Fang. By 16 cycles, she was chosen for the Assassin Order, a secret society of killers who served no banner but honor. They were tools for the Empire. Wherever humans resisted, the assassins followed. Villages burned. Leaders disappeared. Soldiers fell without warning, and she was the sharpest blade among them. Now, standing above the human, she felt those old lessons pressing at her. Do not hesitate. End it quickly. Do not give prey time to think. But she did hesitate. Why? Her eyes searched his face. Most humans screamed at this point or begged. But this one, his eyes were steady, his breathing calm. Even with her blade at his throat, he studied her, calculating, learning. It reminded her of someone, herself. She blinked, and for a heartbeat she was back in the training halls. She remembered her first rival, a boy who never gave up even when she knocked him down again and again. He fought with clever tricks, ropes, stones, improvised weapons. The masters killed him for his defiance, but this human, he carried that same fire, that same refusal to accept defeat. The mine clicked faintly under her foot. Her eyes narrowed. She could kill him now, but in doing so she might destroy herself. A true assassin avoided such foolish endings. Why do you fight like this? She asked, her voice low, almost curious. The human tilted his head slightly, a faint smile on his lips despite the danger. Because you hunt me. His answer was simple, but it carried weight. She searched his eyes, trying to see fear, but all she found was stubbornness. She thought of the many humans she had killed before. They always ran, they always hid. Their fear filled her with power. But this one, his defiance unsettled her more than any weapon. Her mind slipped again into memory. The Empire had taught her that humans were weak, emotional, fragile, easy to break. She had believed it. She had laughed when they screamed. She had enjoyed the silence when they stopped breathing. But now she wondered, was it weakness or something else? The human shifted slightly, bringing her back to the present. She tightened her blade, forcing him to stay still. The mine remained armed under her boot, a reminder that even hunters could fall. You set traps, she said softly. You think like one of us, he chuckled, low and dry. No, I think like a human. Her jaw tightened. Something about those words struck her deeper than any weapon. Like a human. His kind had always been underestimated, always treated as prey. Yet here he was, proving her wrong with every breath. For the first time, she stepped back. Carefully, slowly, she removed her foot from the mine. With a flick of her wrist, her blade withdrew. She could have ended him, but something inside stopped her. The human stood too, wary but unbroken. He touched the burn on his arm where her blade had grazed him, then looked at her with sharp eyes. "You're not used to this, are you?" he asked. She tilted her head. "What?" "Losing control." The words cut deeper than his traps ever could. She had always been in control. Always the predator, never the prey. But now it felt different. This hunt was not going according to the old lessons. For a long moment they stared at each other. Not as hunter and hunted, but as something closer. Two warriors measuring each other, wondering who would break first. Her mind whispered the voices of her masters. "Kill him. Do not think. Do not feel. End it." But another voice rose inside her. Quiet. Strange. Dangerous. Learn from him. The human slung his rifle over his shoulder, his eyes never leaving hers. "So what now?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she faded back into the shadows, her figure disappearing among the ruins. The hunt was not over. It was only changing. As she moved silently across the battlefield, her thoughts were no longer simple. This was not just a mission. This was a question she had never asked before. Were humans truly prey, or were they something more? The assassin vanished into darkness. The human watched the empty ruins and whispered to himself, "She'll be back." And deep inside, he almost welcomed it, because for the first time, he wasn't only running from death, he was teaching it how to chase. The ruins were quiet again. Too quiet. The assassin had melted back into the shadows, vanishing as if she were made of smoke. To most prey, this would mean terror, a long wait for death. But the human did not panic. Instead, he moved with purpose. He knew she was still watching. He could almost feel her eyes from the dark, sharp as knives. But this time, he was not going to run. This time, he had a plan. He slipped deeper into the wreckage of old machines, moving carefully, every step calculated. His boots made no sound on the broken stone. From his pack, he pulled out scraps of wire, small charges and pieces of jagged metal. None of them were powerful alone. But together, they could become deadly. The assassin's kind had superior weapons. Energy rifles, plasma blades, armor that could shrug off bullets. Humans could not match that in open combat. But humans had something else, imagination. They could take scraps, junk, even garbage, and turn it into weapons. And that was his secret. He crouched low behind a shattered engine and began working quickly, fingers moving with the precision of someone who had done this many times. He tied wires to a small charge, connecting it to a broken piece of steel. Then he stretched the wire across a narrow passage between two walls. Anyone moving fast would trip it. The explosion wouldn't kill the assassin, but it would force her to slow down. And slowing her down was all he needed. High above, hidden on a broken wall, the assassin watched silently. Her eyes glowed faint in the night, her breathing calm. She saw him moving, placing things in the shadows, setting traps. Most prey hid in fear, but this human was building. Her lips curled slightly. It was not anger she felt. It was intrigue. He was preparing for her. The human moved again, this time dragging a broken metal panel across the floor. The sound echoed loudly through the ruins. He wanted her to hear it. Wanted her to believe he was careless, but it was bait. Behind the panel, hidden in the dirt, he buried another charge. When weight pressed down, it would ignite. Not enough to kill, but enough to wound, enough to give him time. As he covered it with dust, he muttered softly to himself, "Let's see how good you really are." The assassin leapt silently from her perch, landing on another high point. She studied the battlefield with the eyes of a predator. Every shadow, every corner. She noticed the tripwire. She noticed the disturbed dust. He was clever. Too clever, but cleverness could not stop her forever. She pressed her hand against her armor, activating a scanner. The device pulsed, sending waves through the ruins, mapping traps, mapping heat signatures. In moments, she knew where he was hiding. Still, she did not move in. Instead, she smiled again. This was no longer about the kill. This was about testing him. The human finished his work and slid into cover behind a broken tower of stone. He rested his rifle against his knee and checked his surroundings. Every path toward him was lined with something. Tripwire, mines, hidden blades made from sharpened scrap. He exhaled slowly. For the first time in hours, he felt a strange calm. If she came now, she would bleed for it. The assassin finally stepped down from her perch, silent, graceful. Her blades gleamed faintly in the moonlight. She moved forward, eyes scanning every inch of ground. She avoided the first tripwire easily, stepped over the second without pause. Then she stopped. Her foot hovered above the buried charge. She had seen through it. Her head tilted and her eyes glowed brighter. She looked directly toward his hiding place. For a moment, their eyes met again. The human froze. She had seen it all. Every trap, every careful plan. And still she was coming. But instead of panic, he felt something else rising in him. A fire. If she was that good, then he would have to be better. He raised his rifle, steady hands. His voice carried across the ruins, sharp and defiant. Come on, then. The assassin stepped forward, ignoring the charge. Her armor clicked softly as she moved, slow, deliberate. She wanted him to see that his tricks would not save him. She wanted him to feel her power. But the human was not afraid. He aimed at a piece of stone above her, not at her. He fired. The bullet shattered a weak section of wall. Heavy debris crashed down, forcing her to leap aside. For the first time, she did not choose her own path. He had forced her to move. The ground exploded under her as she landed on another hidden charge. Dust blasted into the air, flames licking her armor. She rolled, quick and skillful, but when she rose, her blade arm smoked faintly. The human smirked, his rifle still steady. You bleed too. The assassin touched her arm. The damage was small, barely a scratch. But it was something she had not felt in years. Pain from prey. Her lips curled again, but this time it was not just a smile. It was something deeper. Excitement. You are no prey, she whispered. The human adjusted his rifle, eyes never leaving hers. His traps had worked, but not enough to finish her. She was still coming, still strong, still dangerous. But for the first time since the hunt began, the balance had shifted. He was no longer only surviving. He was fighting back, and she knew it. Above them, the moonlight painted the ruins in silver. Two figures stood locked in silence, hunter and hunted, predator and prey. But now the line between them was blurring. The assassin raised her blades again, eyes burning with new fire. The human tightened his grip, his traps ready, his courage unshaken. The real hunt was about to begin. The battlefield felt alive now, like a board for two players who refused to lose. Smoke drifted lazily through the ruins, but beneath that calm lay a storm. The human crouched behind a broken pillar, rifle steady, eyes sharp. Across the rubble, the assassin moved with grace, blades ready, her every step silent, patient. Neither rushed, neither dared. This was no simple fight. This was a duel of minds. The assassin circled, watching. She had faced soldiers before, but they all fell the same way, quickly. They depended on weapons, numbers, or luck. This one was different. He moved like someone who had studied her kind. He didn't just react. He anticipated, her eyes narrowed. He learns quickly. Too quickly. She wanted to strike, but something held her back. She wanted to see what he would do next. The human wiped dust from his face, his breathing calm. His traps had slowed her, even hurt her slightly, but he knew it wasn't enough. She was faster, stronger, better armed. If he wanted to survive, he needed to outthink her. He glanced at the ruins around him. Broken towers, shattered machines, twisted steel. To her it was only battlefield debris. To him it was opportunity. Every ruin is a weapon if you know how to use it. He moved swiftly, setting another trap. An empty rifle magazine tied to a wire, balanced on rubble. If disturbed, it would clatter loudly. Not a weapon, but a signal. A way to track her. The assassin crept low, eyes scanning. She noticed the wire instantly. Too easy, too obvious. She stepped over it without pause. But that was exactly what the human wanted. While her attention was on the wire, she didn't see him slipping around to her side. A faint click echoed. She froze. A small rock rolled from above. He was behind her. She spun just as a shot cracked. The bullet grazed her armor, sparks flying. She ducked into cover, eyes glowing with new intensity. So, he wasn't just setting traps to kill. He was setting traps to control her movement. To guide her. To predict her choices. Her lips curled. Clever. The human shifted, reloading quickly. His heart pounded, but he kept his hands steady. He could sense her frustration. She wasn't used to this. He wasn't fighting to win with power. He was fighting to win with patience, and patience was a human weapon. The assassin exhaled slowly. He had forced her into cover. Prey had never done that before. She could charge him now, blades flashing, and this quickly. But something inside her resisted. She wanted to test him more. She pulled a small device from her belt, a hunter's tool, a drone no larger than a fist. It floated silently into the air, its red eye scanning. She sent it forward, searching for him. The drone buzzed softly, weaving between ruins. The human saw it and smirked. He picked up a loose stone and tossed it far to the side. The drone spun instantly toward the noise. He slipped the other way, moving like a ghost. Seconds later, he struck. A shot cracked and the drone exploded in sparks. The assassin stiffened. He had tricked her tool with nothing but a rock. Resourceful. Dangerous. They faced each other again across the ruins, both standing tall now. No more hiding. The assassin's blades glowed, her body tense, her armor scarred with burns. The human held his rifle, sweat glistening on his face, dust streaking his clothes. Two predators. The air between them felt heavy. She lunged first, fast, blinding, her blades cutting through the air. He fired, not at her but at the ground, kicking up dust and sparks. She coughed as debris clouded her vision for a second. He ducked under her swing, rolling to her flank, and fired again. The bullet struck her shoulder plate, jolting her back. She hissed in pain, but she did not fall. She turned, spinning, her blade slicing the edge of his rifle. Sparks flew as metal cracked. He stumbled, almost losing the weapon. Now it was her turn to smirk. "You fight well," she said coldly, "but not well enough." The human steadied himself, his rifle dented but still usable. He stared back, eyes blazing with defiance. "Funny," he replied. "I was about to say the same thing." For a moment silence, and then both laughed. It was strange. His laugh rough, hers sharp like broken glass. But it wasn't mockery. It was recognition. They both understood now. This was no longer just a hunt. This was a test. The assassin lunged again, but this time the human didn't dodge. He stepped forward, catching her wrist, twisting hard. For a heartbeat, predator and prey locked in a grapple, strength against strength. Her muscles burned with power. His burned with will. Neither yielded. Finally, they broke apart, breathing hard, circling again. The ruins echoed with their struggle. Trap after trap, strike after strike, feint after feint. She learned his tricks. He learned her patterns. Every move was answered with another, and as the minutes dragged on, something unthinkable happened. Respect grew. The assassin respected the human's mind, his creativity, his refusal to surrender. The human respected her skill, her power, her relentless drive. Finally, they stopped again, both battered, both panting, both staring at each other with eyes that no longer saw just enemy. "You fight like us," she said softly. "No," he answered. "I fight like a human." The night wind whispered across the battlefield. The hunt was no longer simple. It was a clash of wits, and neither side was ready to admit defeat. The ruins trembled with silence after their last clash. Both stood apart, breathing hard, eyes locked, their bodies marked by dust and wounds. The assassin's blades gleamed faintly, but one arm carried the weight of injury. The human's rifle was cracked, his arm burned, his face streaked with sweat. They were no longer hunter and prey. They were rivals. But the human knew something she did not. He was leading her. All through the chase, he had not run without reason. Every step, every movement, every trap, he had guided her deeper and deeper into the ruins, toward a place he had chosen, a place where her speed, her strength, her weapons would matter less. He was walking her into his maze. The assassin tilted her head, her glowing eyes sharp. She sensed something was wrong. He wasn't moving like prey anymore. He wasn't desperate. He was calm. Too calm. Still, she followed. She had to. The human slipped into a collapsed structure, once a tower, now just broken bones of stone and steel. The air was thick with dust, shafts of moonlight cutting through cracks in the roof. It was a perfect place for a trap. He crouched low, checking the wires he had left earlier. Charges hidden beneath rubble, loose beams held by nothing but a small brace, pressure plates waiting for the right step. This wasn't chaos. It was a plan meant for her. The assassin entered slowly, blades ready. Her eyes scanned the darkness, her instincts screaming caution. She knew he was here. She could almost taste his presence. "Where are you?" she whispered, her voice low, sharp as ice. The words echoed against stone. From the shadows came his reply. Calm, confident, right where I want to be. Her eyes narrowed. The human's voice was different now. It wasn't the voice of someone running. It was the voice of someone waiting. She moved forward, cautious. Her foot brushed over dust. No sound, no mistake. But still, something felt wrong. She turned suddenly, and too late. A wire snapped beneath her step. The walls shook. A hidden charge exploded, not powerful enough to kill her, but strong enough to throw her off balance. Rocks and steel beams collapsed, crashing down. She leapt back, rolling to safety, dust choking the air. For the first time, she realized, this place wasn't just ruins, it was his battlefield. The human moved through the smoke like a shadow. He fired his rifle not to kill, but to force her into paths he had chosen. Every shot drove her deeper, step by step, into the traps he had built. She swung her blades at the dust, trying to cut through the confusion, but another explosion rocked the floor. More debris fell, forcing her to leap sideways. Her armor sparked. Her breathing grew heavy. She was strong, but even strength had limits. He appeared for a moment in the dust, his face calm, eyes sharp. "You've been hunting me," he said, his voice low. "But you forgot something," she growled, raising her blade. "What?" His lips curled into a thin smile. "That humans hunt back." Another charge ignited. This time the floor itself gave way. The assassin dropped into a lower chamber, landing hard. The dust was thick, choking, blinding. She hissed, slashing debris aside, armor dented. She had walked straight into his trap, and now, for the first time in her life, the hunter was caught. The human climbed down carefully, his rifle aimed. He stepped closer, boots crunching on broken stone. The assassin rose slowly, blades ready, but her movements were slower now. The collapse had taken its toll. She stared at him, her eyes glowing brighter, rage mixing with something else, something she had never felt before. "Respect. You think this wins?" She hissed. "No," he said simply. "But it changes the game." He pointed to the roof above her. Broken steel beams hung by a single brace, wires tied to his belt. One pull and they would fall. She looked up, then back at him. Their eyes met in silence. For the first time, she was the one standing in his trap. But instead of fear, she laughed. A sharp, dangerous laugh that echoed in the ruins. "You're clever, human, smarter than the rest. But do you have the will to end it?" The human's hand tightened on the wire. One pull and she would be crushed. One pull and the assassin's reign would end. He stared at her, his heart pounding, his mind racing. He had dreamed of this moment. Revenge for his squad, justice for every human she had killed, and yet, he hesitated. The assassin tilted her head, watching him with curiosity. Even with rubble above her, even with death seconds away, she was calm. "Do it," she whispered. "Prove you are more than prey." The human's breath slowed. His finger twitched, but instead of pulling, he let go. The wire dangled, unused. Her eyes widened. Not in fear, in shock. "Why?" she demanded. "Because killing you here," he said, voice firm, "is too easy. I want you to know what it feels like. To be hunted." The silence between them burned hotter than fire. The assassin tightened her grip on her blades, but something inside her shifted. For the first time, she realized this man was not prey. He was predator. And worse, he was teaching her what that meant. The ruins groaned around them, the battlefield holding its breath. Two figures stood in the dust, roles reversed. The assassin no longer felt control. She felt something foreign. Something dangerous, vulnerability, and the human? He felt alive. For the first time since the hunt began, he knew the truth. The trap had turned. Dust still hung in the air, drifting slowly like smoke after a storm. The ruins groaned under their own weight, stone cracking, steel bending. Two figures faced each other in the half-dark. A human, scarred and steady, and the alien assassin, fierce but wounded. The hunter and the hunted. But now the line between them was gone. The assassin's blades gleamed faintly, though her grip was weaker than before. She had walked through his traps, survived fire and rubble. But for the first time in her long career, she had not been in control. The human stood tall, his rifle steady, his eyes sharp. He had outsmarted her, turned the battlefield into his weapon, and forced her to feel what it meant to be prey. But now came the question neither had expected. What happens next? The assassin tilted her head, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "You had me," she said, her voice calm but edged with something new. Not anger, not pride, something rarer. "You could have ended it. Why didn't you?" The human's jaw tightened. He thought of his squad, friends who had died under her blades. He thought of the countless humans she had hunted across colonies, their voices silenced forever. He had dreamed of revenge. But standing here with her in his sights, the moment felt hollow. "Because," he said slowly, "I'm not like you." Her eyes narrowed. "Not like me? You fight with traps. You fight with cunning. You fight with patience. You fight as I do." He shook his head. "No, I fight as a human." The words echoed through the ruins, simple, powerful. The assassin stared at him for a long time. In her mind, the voices of her masters whispered, "Kill him," and it never hesitate. But the voices felt weaker now, distant. This man had changed something inside her. The silence stretched, heavy as stone. Finally, she stepped closer, her blade rising again, pressing gently against his throat. One push and it would be over. The human didn't flinch. He met her eyes, steady, calm. "If you kill me," he said, "you learn nothing. If you spare me, you'll never hunt the same way again." Her hand trembled, just slightly. Enough for her to feel it, enough to make her realize the truth. He was right. Memories flashed before her eyes. A lifetime of kills, a childhood of lessons beaten into her, the endless hunt, the endless victories. None of them had ever made her hesitate. None of them had ever made her feel, until now. She stepped back slowly, lowering her blade. Her eyes dimmed, the glow fading softer. For the first time in years, she chose not to kill. "You are different," she whispered. The human gave a faint smile. Not victory, not mockery, something closer to respect. "So are you." The ruins groaned again, stone cracking above them. The battlefield was collapsing slowly, piece by piece. Neither moved for a long moment. They simply stared at each other. Predator and prey, soldier and assassin, human and alien. Something unspoken passed between them. Not peace. Not trust, but recognition. The assassin finally spoke. "This is not the end." The human nodded. "No, it's the beginning." She tilted her head, curious. "Of what?" "Of a hunt neither of us will forget." Her lips curled faintly, almost like a smile. Then, without another word, she turned and faded into the shadows, her figure dissolving into the night as if she were smoke carried by the wind. The human lowered his rifle, breathing out slowly. He should have felt relief, but instead he felt anticipation, because deep inside, he knew the truth. The hunt was not over. It had only changed. He looked at the broken battlefield around him, the traps, the rubble, the dust still falling like snow. He thought of his squad, of the war, of everything lost, and then he thought of her, the assassin who had hunted him, the assassin he had spared. He whispered softly to himself, "She'll come again." And though the words should have filled him with dread, they didn't. They filled him with fire. Far away, high above the ruins, the assassin moved silently through the night. Her armor was scorched, her blades marked with scratches. Her body hurt, but her mind was burning. Never before had prey made her bleed. Never before had prey made her question herself. Never before had prey spared her life. The human had done all three. She touched the wound on her arm, feeling the sting. Her lips curled again into that strange, rare expression. A smile. The stars above watched silently as two predators walked away from each other. Not enemies, not allies, something in between. The assassin whispered into the night, her voice soft, dangerous, almost reverent. "He turned the trap on me, but the game is not over." And somewhere in the ruins, the human tightened his grip on his rifle and whispered back to the empty air, "Next time, I'll be ready." The battlefield was quiet again, but its silence was not the silence of death. It was the silence of a story unfinished, the silence before the next hunt.